What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Nesson Studios. Michaela Vernava alongside Mike Cole, wishing you were joining us under better circumstances for Bruins fans. The team announcing today defenseman Charlie McAvoy has suffered a left MCL sprain. He's expected to miss at least 4 weeks, after which he'll be reevaluated. Obviously a huge blow for this team, Mike.
Yeah, it's in some ways good news and bad news. I mean, the good news is it could have been worse. You know, when it first happened, it looked like one of those things where I don't think we're still entirely sure when it happened. I mean, there was a play where he was chasing a puck deep, got up against the boards, kind of twisted his knee, and then I think it was Gallagher who hit him as well. So, I mean, somewhere in that sequence of events, something happened. But it was one of those weird minor contact injuries that you kind of wonder maybe something worse happened. You always get concerned about a tear or something like that. So the fact that it's just a sprain, I guess, is good news. The timeline, you know, not very not great, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Not definitive.
Yeah, it's the fact that 4 weeks they're going to reevaluate. I mean, the 4 weeks, you kind of look at that and say, well, if he's back in 4 weeks, that's great. You know, you're right in time for the playoffs. But the fact that they're reevaluating him in 4 weeks, that kind of gives you a little cause for concern. I know it was the Boston Sports Journal. I forget who. This is on me for not getting the doctor's name, but they have like basically a doctor analyst who kind of looks at these sorts of things, and she said 4 to 6 weeks usually for an injury like that. So if you're going on the high end of that, 6 weeks you're into the playoffs. But if he's back by the start of the playoffs, and there's no reason to believe he won't be, considering he's a young guy, probably heals pretty quickly, that's good news. If you're going into the playoffs without Charlie McAvoy, then you might be in trouble, because this guy has been one of their best defensemen. You could argue he's been their best defenseman, just what he does both on offense and defense. I mean, he's made great strides defensively. We all know that he's an offensive playmaker, good with the puck on his stick, does a lot of good things for the Bruins. The ice time up there with Chara as well. So really one of the more valuable players in this team.
Yeah, he is second on the Bruins in average time on ice. So, I mean, we would hope that he is back for the playoffs. If he's not, I mean, is he? We'll talk in a minute about how the Bruins can go about filling his shoes in his absence, or his skates rather, but is there anyone that really can bring that caliber of play to this defense?
No, I don't think so. And that's not to say that this Bruins team is doomed. I mean, they've done a good job of building up depth for this exact reason. They didn't have this kind of depth last year. Don Sweeney mentioned at the trade deadline, this is why we're making these sorts of moves, so we don't get caught in the same bind that we did last year. Lo and behold, 2 weeks later, Patrice Bergeron and Charlie McAvoy are hurt. So the depth is going to be something that they need and are going to have to lean on down the stretch. But there's no way to replace a guy like this. I mean, he's one of the best young defensemen in the entire game. He's only gotten better as the season's gone along. A guy who's been tested in big games already in his career, whether it's at the amateur level or even the playoffs last year. He's a guy who does a lot of different things for you. The ice time itself tells you how much they rely on this guy. So, everybody's going to have to chip in behind him. The good news is that they have some depth. They have some options, whether it's in the pipeline or whether it's guys that they went out and got at the deadline. So they're in a good position in that way, but there's really no way to produce what Charlie McAvoy brings to you on a night in, night out basis. Well,
they're going to have to try, though. Do you expect to see, will it be Brandon Carlo skating with Zdeno Chara? And if so, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think it's, Brandon Carlo is going to be in there tonight against Detroit, that he's going to skate, alongside Chara. I would imagine that's going to continue until McAvoy is healthy. In singing McAvoy's praises, I don't want to take anything away from Chara, who's been, very good this season, especially at his age. He's going to be, what is he going to be, 41 next week? So he's going to have to continue to be the big brother of sorts to Brandon Carlo and kind of carry him along, because Carlo certainly, Carlo's had a great year last year, kind of take a step back this year. A decent defenseman, but he's not Charlie McAvoy, so he's gonna have to lean on Chara, and he's gonna have to kind of bring him along. But like I said, the depth moves that they made to go out and get a guy like Nick Holden, who's been really good since he's been drawn into the lineup. I mean, he's a guy who moves the puck really well. He's got great vision. You put him in positions to succeed. He's done a nice job for them so far. So he's going to have to probably shoulder a little bit more of the load. You're going to have to lean on a guy like Torrey Krug as well. And, it's a chance for a guy like Matt Grzelcyk, he's back in the lineup tonight against Detroit. Adam McQuaid, who's sat out, I think, 5 of the last 6 games, is going to get another chance in the lineup at some point. You're going to have to Bruce Cassidy's going to have to do a little bit of a balancing act and kind of see what works best and get these guys in get them out. At the same time, balancing rest into the stretch run. It's a weird time for the Bruins where, they've afforded themselves a pretty sizable cushion with how well they've played all year, but there's certain things that they're going to have to kind of tinker with, to get used to life without Charlie McAvoy, at least until the playoffs.
And looking at special teams, what kind of tinkering do you think they'll do on the power play?
Bruce Cassidy told reporters this morning at morning skate that it's probably going to be on Krug. He's already quarterbacking the first unit, but he's going to have to play a little bit more, I think. Holden's another guy who's going to have to step up on the power play. He's been actually, again, I've been really impressed with Nick Holden. I think he's, especially in the offensive end, he's a big dude. Like I say, he moves the puck well. He's got good vision. They've kind of found something on that second unit, which is a weird hodgepodge of guys that didn't look like it was going to work. Just looking at it on paper when they first, rolled out those lines a couple of games ago, but it's worked well so far. So he's going to have to continue to play well. And Grzelcyk's another guy he's a guy who's pretty good offensively for a defenseman. He's back in the lineup. He's going to have to make an impact as well on the power play. And I think, kind of those three guys, spread out on the two units are going to kind of try to make up for McAvoy. And again, I mean, on the power play, maybe a forward steps up and kind of shoulders the load up front at least and kind of generate some offense there. So again, a lot of depth on this team. They've gone out and they've made getting deeper. They made that a priority at the deadline for exactly a situation like this. So we're gonna have to see whether that plays out in the long run. So far in the short run, it's been good. I mean, they looked fine without McAvoy on Saturday night against Montreal. They're going to have to continue to do that moving forward. And
then when you look at the rest of the Atlantic Division, I mean, the Bruins are lucky for the success that they've had so far this season and the lack of competition that they have going forward. I mean, not much of a danger in terms of falling very low in the standings there.
Yeah, I think right now, going into the final stretch run here, there's a lot of chances for them to make up some ground on Tampa Bay. They've got Tampa, 2 or 3 times, I think, still the rest of the way. A few other games within the division, within the conference that are going to be pretty good tests. And again, they have a Midwest Canada trip at some point too, where they go out and play Winnipeg, which will be a nice game, a good measuring stick. But I think that now the number one priority for this team, more so than anything, is get healthy and kind of be cautious with these guys. Be cautious with Bergeron. Be cautious with Rask, we haven't even mentioned Tuukka Rask dealing with a lower body thing as well. He's Hudobin's back in there again tonight. And be cautious with McAvoy. Get these guys healthy for the playoffs. That's the most important thing at this point. They've built up such a huge gap between them and the rest of the Atlantic Division in terms of the teams that aren't currently in the playoffs right now. They've got a lot of goodwill. So it's going to take an epic choke for them to not make the playoffs. Now they can't, rest on that necessarily, but it's a good cushion for them.
All right, sure. Mike. Well, thanks for the analysis, and make sure to keep it on NESN.com. We will keep you updated on all your Bruins news.